Today's video is sponsored by War Thunder. Welcome back, everybody. Today's video is going to be another meta update. We saw that 7.39c came out just a few days ago, and even though it wasn't that large of a patch, I do think it's time to give you guys a little bit of an update of heroes I think you should try, and also highlighting some key changes about the patch, and just getting more of a litmus test for what's going on in the meta right now. So first, we're going to go through some of the patch notes, and then I'm going to give you one hero in every single role that I think you should be trying to learn if you're looking to learn a new hero right now. Let's go ahead and get started. So going into the patch notes, I think a lot of this patch was kind of dealing with niche interactions that they didn't want to be inconsistent across the board. So the first ones we see that melee attacks against couriers now no longer work. This is simply because there was a Marcy level 1 Roche strat with Ursa where you take turns tanking Roche with couriers. I think it's really interesting how much of an impact that Reddit and cheese strats have on Valve and changing the game in general. I just had my courier die to Roshan today because of this change, so keep that in mind that if you accidentally fly your courier over Roshan, it will actually die now, because in the past it would have taken at least 4 hits. Going into the items, Valve saw that these items were either being used in a way that weren't intended, meaning that people were buying Orb of Venom like mid to late game on heroes like TA just to get that Meld Strike off through Butterfly. So it was meant to be more of a laning, harassing item, and instead it's turning into a late game item, because that's the point in which True Strike is actually relevant. So removing the True Strike component of Orb of Venom is something they did. And then nerfing Blade Mail, seeming like the only item that deserved a nerf. It was, and still is, one of the most popular items of the patch. I feel like it heavily defines the offlane meta right now. So if you're an offlane hero, be looking to buy that early Blade Mail for the farming potential. It makes you not so appealing to gank, because you just basically kill people with you. And any hero that likes to just go into the middle of the fight, we're going to be talking about one of my favorite new offlaners right now, but we're not going to spoil that, loves Blade Mail, and effectively BKBs come online later than it. So it just feels like Blade Mail timing is too powerful right now. And it's also a decent farming item because they reflect damage on creeps. But then the other interesting ones was that, I don't know if you've ever had this with Harpoon, but if somebody harpooned you and then you blinked away, you would then get harpooned all the way back, even if the harpoon hadn't landed yet. And that's gotten me killed several times in the recent patches. And honestly, it just shouldn't work that way. Harpoon was seemingly becoming like a really broken initiation item on heroes like Sven, Magnus, Doom. And if you can't disjoin it, it just feels broken. So they got rid of that portion. So keep in mind that if you're against a guy that's initiating predominantly with Harpoon, you can now buy a Blink Dagger or just use any sort of disjointing ability in the game, and it'll actually work. The point of the Hurricane Pike thrust buff now being dispellable is that Hurricane Pike is effectively an upgraded Force Staff, right? And Force Staff is dispelled by items like Nullifier. And in the past, the only way you could actually get away from somebody, if you weren't BKB'd and you were nullified, was to Hurricane Pike on them, and you would effectively push yourself away. But now, if you Hurricane Pike somebody while you are nullified, it will instantly stop your movement. So having that one niche interaction of an item that is not predictably dispelled by Nullifier makes sense that they reconciled that. So what's really interesting about this patch that I feel like it's telling us is, I don't think it changed the meta all that much, but it's a great indicator for what's broken right now, because I feel like a lot of the changes they made were not significant enough to make these heroes bad. But these are the heroes that are in the meta, at least for the most part. So we're just going to go through it really quickly. Axe, absolutely broken offlaner. If you haven't gotten to it and you haven't seen it yet, now's the time to play your boy Axe. Batrider, being a flex pick between 4 and 2. Both very strong with the different facets. Death Prophet felt like she got broken overnight, but the fact that she got changed to Universal and people found a build for her with the Ags, that Ag Scepter slow was going through BKB, so it was just absolutely broken. I think the hero's still pretty solid, but yeah, Death Prophet was insane in pretty much every core role, even in the 1 position sometimes. And I think she's still very good in 2 and 3. Doom, utilizing the buyback facet that lets you sell your stuff for 85% cost. People are just buying Midas like 4 or 5 times a game because you only have to use it twice in order to get the money back. It just feels like a broken concept that you can effectively buy a Midas and then not get punished for just selling it, you know, 5-6 minutes later, and you're getting that bonus experience. And the biggest buff of the patch, in my opinion, is the Phantom Rush Aghanim Scepter buff on Phantom Lancer, which now makes him create an illusion for every 600 distance that he is traveling, and the collision size is effectively much larger, so he'll much more easily spawn illusions. And we'll be getting back to this later on in this video, spoiler alert, because I believe this Ag Scepter is actually really good now. Puck being one of the most reliable mids right now, receiving some small nerfs. Shaman, the absolute most busted 4 position. We've talked about him in both of the last meta update videos. Still one of the top tier heroes. The fact that he has 2 viable facets just makes him so good. And the fact that you can adjust situation to situation, any hero that fits that bill, ever since the fastest patches come out, is just broken in theory, right? Batrider's the same. Sven, one of the best reliable carries right now, getting that nerf. Still think he's good. TA getting nerfed. Terrorblade getting nerfed. I think these heroes are falling off in the grand scheme of the pub meta, but at the end of the day, they're still getting picked and competitive, so I would say lean away from these unless you're hero specialists. And last but not least, for the patch note changes, the Vengeful Spirit offlane, really good in the meta right now, seemingly very good save against all of these like single target FU kind of heroes, like Doombringer. So if you ever see those on the enemy team, Vengeful Spirit feels very strong. That wraps it up for my patch note review, but before we get into one hero in each role of all of our favorite games, Dota 2, let's talk about another game, the sponsor of this video, War Thunder. War Thunder is the most comprehensive vehicle combat game ever made, and it's available now for free on PC, console, and mobile devices. Take control of over 2,500 vehicles from 10 major nations, ranging from biplanes and armored cars of the 1920s to fighter jets and main battle tanks of today. Immerse yourself in the intense combat of War Thunder, where incredibly detailed vehicles, realistic graphics, and authentic sound effects place you at the helm of some of the most powerful war machines of our time. War Thunder has one of the most sophisticated vehicle damage models in all of gaming, which is what I appreciate most about this game. Join a worldwide community of over 70 million players engaging in epic PvP battles today. Delve into the breathtaking experience that is War Thunder. With an unmatched wealth of high-quality content to discover, there's no game better suited for fans of military history. Play War Thunder for free on PC, PlayStation, Xbox, and mobile devices by clicking the link in the description below or in my pinned comment. New and returning players from PC and console who haven't played for the last 6 months will also receive a massive bonus pack. This includes multiple premium vehicles, the exclusive vehicle decorator Eagle of Valor, 100,000 Silver Lions, and 7 days free of premium account access. All of this is available for a limited time only, so get yours while the getting's good. Now let's get back to the heroes that I told all of you should be trying in this current patch. First off, starting in the 5 position role, a hero that did get nerfed in the recent patch, but I still think he's absolutely busted, and it seems like he's really fun to play because of all the options you have in terms of the positioning on the map, the items you can build. You guessed it, you got it, it's Nature's Prophet, 5 position. And his sustain in lane from the Sprout seems absolutely busted for winning the lane. But then it feels like what makes this hero so strong is that there's a lot of really tanky, unkillable people in the game right now. And as a support, he doesn't need boots because of the nature of his teleport around the map. And the fact that he trades really well in lane, he usually gets off to a pretty solid start. And he gets to rush Spirit Vessel. He's one of the few heroes in the game that actually enables his team to take down these tanky targets. I would warn you that if you lack playmakers on your team consistently in your bracket, Nature's Prophet may fall a little bit flat. But a lot of people are even going for like a pseudo carry build sometimes. I saw Celery do it during one of the qualifiers where, yeah, he started with the Spirit Vessel, but he felt like in that game he had to carry. Maybe in your games if you feel like nobody's making plays. So he ended up just going the standard carry Nature's Prophet build where he went back for Maelstrom, Treads, Hurricane Pike, Mjolnir, Satanic AC. So that's an absolute option that you can go for. But a lot of what people are doing, as the meta build, if you do feel like your team's working with you, is after the Spirit Vessel, people are either going Orchid, if it's really locking down a crucial target like Storm, Puck, Ember, any of the mobile guys. But if you don't deal with any of those and you're dealing with like heavy damage, sometimes they'll just go Blade Mail and they'll TP into the middle of a fight and just activate Blade Mail, draw a lot of attention to themselves, and effectively take people down with them and set up for their team that way. Or the other way that people are going is for Ag Scepter into like Octarine Refresher. And so you're just a Spirit Vessel plus permanent wave shove and the root from your Ags in fights. Nature's Prophet feels like he can do it all, and he's a hero that's great to learn right now because of the fact that he has the reliable laning phase and the fact that he does have a consistent build-up in the early stages of the game, and then you get to kind of exercise your creativity as the game goes on. Next up, in the 4 position, we've got Batrider with the Stoked facet. Batrider's being played as the core as well right now in the 2 position with the Arsonist facet. And that one's definitely one you can look to try, but we're not talking about him for the mid position in this video. We are talking about the Arsonist facet, which in my opinion, what makes it so good is once you get Tranquil Boots, you're offsetting the downside of this facet, but then you're able to take earlier stacks and you're able to basically get to your item timings faster because of this, right? So Batrider's always been one of the most powerful single target disables in all of Dota. It pierces BKB and it's a displacement spell at the same time. So Batrider has pretty decent trade potential nowadays, but the build that people are going for is a pretty instant Tranquil Boots on the 4 position, but then they're looking to stack Ancients as much as possible, utilizing the mobility to potentially drag waves for their team, open up that stack of Ancients, and try to farm it with or without their offlaner. You can take as many points in Sticky as you need to, but Sticky plus Firefly will be necessary in order to clear that Ancient stack. But getting that early Blink Dagger is absolutely essential. Some people have gone for like a Drums as a substitute, but I do feel like giving yourself playmaking potential on Bat is essential as long as you have one other guy in your team to work with you. After Blink Dagger, they like to go for Force Staff to further increase the potency of your displacement from your lasso. And then people are going either BKB if they absolutely need it, or they're going for Ag Scepter for that double lasso to give yourself a bit more teamfight presence in the late game. And so Batrider feels like the most reliable playmaker that also can get his own farm in the early game. This is ignoring Shadow Shaman. We've basically already talked about the fact that Shadow Shaman's absolutely broken in this meta. If you haven't learned him already, feel free. But Batrider feels like the fun 4 position hero that I look forward to playing in this meta the most. And in the 3 position, one of my favorite heroes conceptually in all of Dota. I've made a guide on her. I've talked about her in numerous meta updates. If you've watched me a lot, you probably know how much I love this hero, and that is Dawnbreaker. What Dawnbreakers are doing right now is they've found a nice little meta build that seems to work really well. And it is all based around the Solar Charged facets. So the Solar Charged facet's the one that reduces your cooldowns whenever you proc Luminosity. And the idea of this build is that you're going for an early Ags. So it's usually Phase Soul Ring, maybe like a Bracer or a Wand in there. And the option between that and Ags is to potentially go Blade Mail. If I'm having a really good lane and I want to ramp up the pressure, I'm going to go for Blade Mail. Otherwise, I'm going to go straight for the Ags. And the Ags initially, when they removed the evasion, felt like a really weak. But what it does now is you barely have any airtime where you're traveling, so you're an immediate follow-up to pretty much every stun in the game. Most stuns were not long enough previously to set up Dawnbreaker's ulti. People could get out of it. But now with the new Ags, you travel so fast that you're guaranteed to have that BKB piercing stun, and you're guaranteed to have that save for your team, but also it's way better for aggression on the map. So the key with Dawnbreaker offlane, the only weakness she has is that she needs somebody else to go in first. But when people are building this Ags afterwards, they're either going for their own BKB because they need it when they're landing. Usually Shard's not enough nowadays. But also what I love and the build I've been doing in my pubs, because I actually saw a Grandmaster tier Dawnbreaker player doing it, is to go Ags into Shivas. Because you are effectively throwing yourself in the middle of a fight, amping up all of your damage that you have coming out from your Ags because it remains on the ground once you're walking around in the fight. And then it amps up the rest of your spells. The talents you're going for are the Hammer at 10, the Solar Guardian facets at 15 and 20, and then the Hammer travel distance at level 25. And you're effectively like a really cool spellcaster. People are going like BKB Octarine Core into Refresher, into Strength Blink, and you're effectively the Wraith King from the previous patch without the Radiance. And I absolutely love this type of playstyle. It seems really good right now. And worst case scenario, what this hero does is you're allowed to just farm by yourself on the map, waiting for your team to do something. And you're either a save if your team gets caught while in a decent position. The main thing to note is that just because you have your ultimate, you're allowed like 1 or 2 per game where your teammates get caught out, you overly react. You have to learn to be a bit patient, or at least if you weren't prepared for that ultimate, don't use it. I feel like most of the mistakes I make on Dawn are basically self-inflicted because I decided to throw myself in on a teammate that was already caught too far out of position. So keep that in mind, and you guys should have a great time with this build. In the mid lane, a hero that seems like she's been in meta for eons now, and I think it's just about time that we learn her if we're playing a lot of mid lane, and that is Puck. What's really cool about Puck right now is that Puck has 2 viable facets, one that makes your Waning Rift push or pull, and the other one is what makes your orb be able to be a curveball. Now, the clear distinction I looked at when looking at pros is it seems to be about a 50-50, but every player is doing one or the other. Like, no player is swapping back and forth because it so significantly changes the nature of the hero, because using the orb as a curveball is so different. And then also the Waning Rift is not as different, but it does change the impact of Puck's spells. So Really enjoying the curveball facet because of the fact that your orb early game, if curved correctly on top of a range creep, will one-shot it, which means that once Puck gets level 7, she's going to get every single range creep in lane. She clears the wave really fast, gets to that early treads Witchblade, which gives her the mid-game damage. And then most of the time right now, other than maybe a Shadow Shaman, maybe you guys see some Lion in your lower MMR pups. I don't really see that hero very often. It feels like there's a severe lack of disable for Puck. The only way to really deal with it is an Orchid, which in that case, after Witchblade Blink, you go for a Eul's. Or there's sometimes like carries like Sven or Doom or something like this that can look to blink single target stun you. So what Pucks are doing is after the blink Witchblade, they're going for like one survivability item, either the Eul's or the Lincolns. And then in the late game, they just have Ags, Octarine Core, and like a Mjolnir, sometimes even like a Rapier. You know, you upgrade into the Arcane Blink, potentially an Eon Disc. This is a hero that if she stays alive and isn't bursted at the very start of the fight, becomes one of the highest scaling cores in Dota right now. And she's effectively a carry from the mid lane that doesn't have too many bad laning matchups right now. And her win rate seems very solid across competitive Dota. And now's the time to spam Puck. And you'll definitely thank me later in future patches if you invest the time and effort into this hero, because it seems like she's constantly in the meta across years and years of Dota. And last but not least, the hero I've been most excited to talk to you guys about is I've played him 6 times in the last few days since this new patch came out. As I mentioned in the patch notes, Phantom Lancer did receive a pretty massive buff to his Aghanim Scepter, which guarantees that every 600 units he's going to get an extra illusion. So since the range of Phantom Rush is 1450 with the Ags, then effectively you're getting at least 2, and if they run away from you, you might get 3. And they also increase the collision size for Phantom Lancer, so when you're rushing through a creep wave, you're pretty much guaranteed to hit all the creeps if you angle it correctly. So the build I've been going for is Wand, Quelling Blade, Branch, flying myself out some tangos, going straight treads into Ags, maybe occasionally some raindrops along the way. But what it feels like with PL right now is I go for his level 1 Phantom Rush, in order to secure CS or potentially harass the support on the side. It feels like a lot of the supports are fighting on the left side of the lane or the right if you're on Dire. And it feels like having that Phantom Rush to choose when to take those trades or not, really good for the 2v1s, but otherwise you're largely useless in lane. It's important to note that the one struggle of this hero is that his early laning stage, he's not very helpful. So if your support tries to overplay the lane, then things could go disastrously. And one thing I've realized about PL over time is no matter what patch it is, he always is a bit slow to come online. He needs that first item. And so the first like 12 to 15 minutes of the game usually feel a bit tough. So I feel like the goal of this hero in the past was to buy that Diffusal, show up to a fight, get some cool mana burns, buy that Manta, and be survivable, and then eventually scale into this late game monster. But what happens with the Ag Scepter is one of two things. Either you have a good start and you can actually snowball out of control because you spawn so many illusions and you go 4-1-4 at that point. Because what happens is if you're taking the Lance a lot faster, which I think you should every single time, when you rush on top of somebody and then you hit them a few times with your illusions, suddenly your Lance is going to do like 600 damage. And so in the mid game, that's absolutely a shit ton of damage. It's almost a Lion Finger. And you're also really tanky with the Ag Scepter. What's really important to note about your neutral items is that I always go for tanky neutral items, whether that's the health, whether that's the essence ring. PL's entire kit right now, it feels like he struggles to sustain, but he needs to stay alive, and he will do so much damage with this Ag Scepter. This Ag Scepter speeds up your farm going from camp to camp, speeds up your farm clearing creep waves, and then what needs to happen in the mid game is you either go Yasha after the Ags, or you go for Ag Shard first and then Yasha. But the reason why Ag Shard is so good on this hero is because of the fact that when you're rushing at somebody, if you queue up the rush, you will be invis while you are rushing at them and you'll be spawning illusions. So a lot of times the weakness of this is that you just get interrupted while you're rushing somebody. But what happens is you rush on top of them, get a few illusions, lance them, doppel as well, and suddenly you're just creating a ton of chaos in the fight. You're pretty tanky. His worst matchup in the game right now seems to be Sven. So just keep an eye out. I'm actually nominating Sven to be banned, and that's generally when I'm avoiding picking PL. But there's a lot of Shamans, a lot of Lions, a lot of Undyings, a lot of these like single target heroes, Terrorblades in the carry role. As long as you're not dealing with basically Sven or Axe, those are like the two meta heroes that I think cause a ton of issues for PL, then PL feels like he can be an absolute free win. I will never pick him first or second. I'll pick him third, fourth, or overall fifth in the draft. But basically scaling him into this normal PL that starts the game with an Ags. I only go Diffusal if it feels like the opponent's super tanky and I need to wear them down. So they have heroes like Centaur, stuff like this, Tiny, that they're really tanky strength heroes with low mana pools, and it's going to take me a while to kill them. That's the only time that I go for Diffusal. But aside from that, I don't play into his innate at all. I'm playing purely around the fact that I'm going to Phantom Rush on top of people, Doppelganger, and be super obnoxious. I take all of his Phantom Rush talents, but I don't play around the innate to do damage. I don't think the innate really synergizes that much with PL. The best strat I think you can have with PL is actually to have a Venge offlane who goes Ags Vlad. So if you guys are in a party queue stack, try it out, because the Vengeance Aura plus the Vlads is a huge bolster to PL in terms of damage. And in those type of games, you can look to go for like the Butterflies and the Scotties. But I'm really enjoying going the Ags, Manta, into stuff like Octarine Core, Lincolns in order to be survivable. Sometimes you'll need to go for a BKB. The major idea is as long as you're staying alive, consistently Phantom Rushing people, unless the game goes like 50, 60 minutes in, you'll have plenty of damage, and I don't play into the innate at all. It's even worth potentially considering going for like a Yashikaya if you don't need the Dispel from Manta, but I have found that people are buying Orchids. They usually have one like Atos or Root on the team, so Manta almost always seems like a must. But this Ags first PL build seems like a really fun meta build that I've been enjoying so far. I've had relatively good success with it, and I encourage you guys to try it out too, because he's one of my favorite heroes and he hasn't been meta for so freaking long. There you have it, another meta update in the books. One hero for each role. We've got Nature's Prophet in the 5, Batrider in the 4, we've got Dawnbreaker in the 3, Puck in the 2, and Phantom Lancer in the 1. I encourage you guys all to try these heroes out. I think they're great heroes to learn and experiment with right now. Hope you guys enjoyed the meta update, and I look forward to seeing you guys in the next video. Again, thank you War Thunder for sponsoring this video. And don't forget to grab it for free on PC, console, and mobile devices. And you can check it out in the link below in the description, as well as the pinned comment. New and returning players who haven't played for 6 months will also receive an exclusive bonus pack, which includes premium vehicles and other goodies. This is available for a limited time only, so don't miss it.